Curing cancer is worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Treating it is worth trillions. Big pharma spends 9 times on lobbying than the entire oil and gas industry. The liver's ability to regenerate is unmatched.
Who are you? What the fuck are you doing here?
So my name's Siggi Clavien. I'm a liver expert, and I've done that because I've been in phytomedicine development for 29 years. So I was formerly trained actually to be a winemaker, but being a winemaker and being a vintner and taking care of vines is similar to taking care of a living being that can get really old, 80 years old. It can get sick. You give it nutrients. You take care of it. You prune it. So that's what started me on that path. Yeah, and then I lost a loved one to had a drug interaction. So basically, in his liver, it killed him. My best friend.
Holy shit.
So I changed gears and went away and just went into phytomedicine development. And I've been developing detox programs and supplementals, nutraceuticals to try to prevent overdose, help people get off the physical side of addiction. And then my mentor died, helped me start my first company. I was 19. He died of liver cancer. And then my godfather, who had taught me to be the Renaissance man and try to know a lot of everything, about everything, died of cirrhosis. So one of them kind of went down the negative path with alcohol and cirrhosis, and it killed him, and he knew what he was doing, my godfather. Whereas my mentor tried to turn it around at the end and couldn't, and he fought and he died. So I've dedicated my life to trying to advance the future of liver health, make the liver famous, and prevent deaths. And as kind of took this from the Dalai Lama, he says, save one life, you save the world. So we always say, trying to save the world one liver at a time. That's us. Yeah.
So would your deliverance cured all these people or save them?
The combination of the early diagnostics, preventative medicine, and then deliverance. Yeah, I think I'm very convinced that they would probably be alive today. Yeah, on both scenarios.
See, I always thought that because you were a winemaker, you drank too much alcohol and then you had to cure yourself. But I mean, this is a better story.
Yeah, yeah.
So is liver the real fountain of youth? Why are doctors ignoring it?
So the liver is a master organ. In Chinese medicine, we refer to it as the general of the body. And, the heart is like a giant pump. Your brain's like a computer. But the motherboard that is running everything in all your organs is your liver. So it's the most important organ for longevity. It's the most important organ for women's health. It's the most important organ for your immune system. It's the most important organ to keep your skin and hair healthy. It's also the mastermind of all the vitamins and nutrients and proteins. I mean, it controls those and stores those and then deploys those into the body as needed. So if your liver's out of whack, all those other things can suffer and you can get out of equilibrium and out of balance as well.
Yeah. So I just had microbiome guys in here tell me the same thing about the microbiome.
Yeah. So there's a very much two-way state. You have to look at the body holistically, obviously, and that's how we formulate holistically as well. So the gut microbiome is very, very important. So when you eat food, right, it goes to the stomach, gets broken down, and then it goes into the small intestine, right, where all the gut biome is as well. That absorbs and pulls out nutrients and it pulls out vitamins, and then it goes in the blood to the liver, and then the liver controls those, and then it sits to where those go. So if your gut biome was out of whack, you may not be getting a lot of absorption. That's why a lot of people that take a lot of supplements or they might be taking certain medications, they may or may not be getting as much of the nutrients. If their gut biome's out of whack, they're not getting the absorption. And in turn, if your gut biome is bad or you've got leaky gut, toxins will actually get through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream and then be hitting the liver. So your first line of defense is your gut biome. Then it's your liver. But your liver can be overloaded or poisoned if your gut biome is out of whack. And then in turn, all the bile acids that break fatty acids down are created by the liver. So the liver is creating everything that breaks those fatty acids down as well. So they're completely different. The liver is not the liver is an organ. It's a master organ and it's a gland. Whereas the gut microbiome, that's, I get trillions of little microorganisms living within that as well, but it's not a control mechanism. The liver also, I think, has inherent intelligence, and it's the only organ in the body that fully regenerates. It's also one of the only organs that you cannot replicate with technology. You can pull a huge section of your small intestine out and make it shorter. artificial hearts, you have artificial lungs, artificial kidneys, but the liver is so complex, and the way that it regenerates is that it's incredible. And because most liver disease is asymptomatic until it's pretty bad, that's why they call it a silent killer, because by the time you're getting big symptoms of liver disease, you're pretty well far down the road.
So now you said something interesting to me. We talk about people who have fatty liver, cirrhosis of the liver. If the liver can regenerate, why are there even liver transplants and things like that going on?
Because the liver can get too sick to the point, so you can have up to 90% of the liver damaged, and it will grow back. When you do a live liver transplant, let's say you need a live liver transplant, I offer to be a live donor. We'll take a third of my liver out, we'll put that little third into you, and that will grow to a fully double-lobed organ, usually within 6 months, can be shorter. And as soon as up to 30 days, mine will have grown back. So no organ does that. You can't do that with the heart or the stomach or this lining or anything else, but the liver does do that. So what happens is, cirrhosis used to be what alcoholics got, and they still do. And that's what everybody thought, oh, well, cirrhosis is what alcoholics get. Now, that was true, less than 10% of people with cirrhosis were non-drinkers 50 years ago. But as of 2022, we hit a tipping point to where 51% of people with cirrhosis now are non-drinkers. So alcohol is no longer the majority cause of cirrhosis. And what cirrhosis is so you've got these stages of liver. You've got healthy liver, you've got fatty liver, and then if it gets too fat, it starts to develop what's called NASH, so non-alcoholic steatosis hepatitis, which is basically a form of hepatitis that's been induced because of so much fat. And you start to get collagen, and too much collagen starts to come in and create like these channels, which is like causes inflammation and causes scarring within the liver. Like there's a phenomenon where we think tens of millions of Americans in the West and in India and Middle East are going to get NASH, or as I was just saying, because of it's this buildup. So fatty liver leads to that. But if those channels start to connect, what happens is they then will look like little islands of tissue. And that tissue now has been devoid of energy, of chi, of blood, of oxygen, and it dies. And then that's why cirrhotic liver looks like leopard spots. And if you get too many of those, just the functionality of the liver starts to go down. You start to get liver failure, and which will lead to death. So at that point, you have to put somebody onto liver transplant list, whether that be a live liver transplant like we just discussed, or a liver transplant from somebody else. Now, you can also get this scarring or cirrhosis or fibrosis largely from alcohol, pharmaceuticals, drug damage. So there's other kinds of things that can damage it as well. Petrochemicals in a huge dose could cause that damage within the liver, and it gets scarred, and then you've got cirrhosis. And then, fortunately, 50% of people on the transplant list die before they get the transplant because it's so difficult. If their liver's out, we don't have technology to keep you alive to that point. We're working on it. We're working on some pretty incredible protocols using stem cells, where we think maybe, because the common Western medicine claim is that cirrhosis are reversible. I don't think that's true. I think that by using stem cells and like ultrasound guided stem cell therapy with the needle the size of a follicular hair into where that scarring is, maybe we can create enough regeneration to open that back up and then to turn that around. Because I think if you can open that back up, you could reverse cirrhosis. And that's, a lot of doctors smarter than me, liver experts. We've got kind of a group that we're working on that in a couple of studies on how to do that.
Do detoxes actually work, or are we just peeing out expensive juice?
So detoxification is a natural process. And I developed detoxification products for 29 years. And I always looked at it from more of an active approach, where you would push the body into detoxification or do things to invigorate the body into detoxification to do that. I don't practice that modality anymore. I really realize more of a Chinese or a yin approach to it. Is the liver is the ultimate detox in the body, right? So it kind of controls detoxification, and you detox through your skin. That's one of your best sources of getting rid of toxins. You do it through breathing. You do it through, obviously, through peeing and excrement and things like that. But the liver is really controlling that because it's creating the enzymes. I mean, liver has 500 vital functions, but there's other functions running through the thousands. There's thousands of different enzymatic reactions it can do to deal with toxins. So the liver is the ultimate and should be in charge of detoxification. So even with De-liver-ance, we don't put you in detoxification, but we optimize your liver, your blood, your spleen so much that if your body decides to put you in detoxification, we've given it everything it needs But a lot of those detox programs sometimes it could be somewhat of a waste. I mean, I like to give the body what it needs and let the miracle of the human body do its thing.
His body wants to heal itself.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what's the one thing we're doing to our liver every day that no one's talking about? Like, how are we murdering our liver?
Well, first and foremost, probably the toxicity. I mean, so energetically and emotionally, anger can cause a lot of liver issues. Anger resides in the liver. People that are angry tend to have more liver issues. But I think the first thing we're doing is we're hitting it with all kinds of toxins, whether that be, I think we're breathing. So if you live in a city, right, if you're in New York, you're breathing all kinds of toxins in all the time, right? That's hitting the liver. A lot of people that don't think about is they're getting toxicity through like topical things, like maybe deodorants, right? Sometimes you get nanoparticles of zinc that you're putting right into the lymphatic system in the armpit, right? So that's a toxin. BPAs, chemicals that could be in shampoos, that could be in soap, maybe the water. Like if you're taking a bath in a city that, a lot of towns that recycle water, the chlorine level is so high in that water that they even tell you don't put it in an aquarium, you'll kill the fish. But if you're sitting in a bath of that and absorbing all those chlorine, all those toxins, those hormones, so that's another way. Processed foods is the biggest one, and not just processed foods and high fructose corn syrup, but I'm a very, very suspect of preservatives. If you're making a chemical compound or using a chemical in the manufacturing process of a food to keep an organic material such as bread or vegetables, on a shelf life for weeks when naturally it should be days, what is that doing to us internally?
It's preserving your organs.
Yeah, but not in a good way. So it's blocking them up. Yeah.
You say love your liver.
Yeah.
Why do you think Big Pharma hates your message?
I think the big pharma probably hates our message because they look at monetization of a patient and reactive medicine. And there was a great, I actually heard this. It was a speech by one of the heads of big pharma, and he was saying, I'm not in the healthcare business. I'm in the shareholder value business. That was the CEO of one of the top big pharma companies. I don't remember which one. And he said that I think at a huge investor meeting with like 1,000 people in the room. And that's true. That's what they're focused on. Big pharma is not run by people, by healers or by people that really care about people's health. They care about shareholder value and making money and monetizing it. And I was with a really incredible guy. He was a doctor and a lawyer, worked for an M&A team for GlaxoSmithKline, basically had a nervous breakdown because of the ethics of what he was doing with it. And he, what he would do is they would find an amazing drug that they'd consider buying it, or they might buy it, a biotech company created. But then the actuaries will take that drug. They'll run all kinds of economic forecasts on it. How much will it make over this many years? How many people will this? How many people will get sick? And then they compare it to other drugs. And if they have a drug, and that drug might be a cure for a disease or a certain type of cancer, but if that will cannibalize the other drugs that they sell to where they'll make way less money by opening it up, they will take that miracle, they will shelve it, and they will shut it down because they don't want somebody else to have it, and they don't want to make less money off of something that might be treating people. So, and he said this very poignantly at the dinner. He said, curing cancer is worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year, right? Hundreds of billions. Treating it is worth trillions. So their motivation is to treat, not to cure. So we are actually root cause medicine, functional medicine. We're trying to prevent people from getting chronically ill. So all the drug companies now are rushing to get NASH drugs across to prevent NASH and late-stage liver disease. And I thought they'd be really, they could potentially, give us funding so we could do more studies, but they're interested in things they can bang out insurance companies for 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand a patient, not something that costs $180, $220 a month. So we're focused on the 90% of people that are not yet chronically ill. And we are trying to prevent people from getting disease. So we are creating less patients for them, less customers for them, and inevitably less money to them.
There's a target on your back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do we have to worry about you getting scooped up by Big Pharma and getting shelled?
No, I think I'm in this for a moral reason. My why is strong and my morality is, and, I like money's great. You can buy nice things. You have freedom with it. You can give money away. You can do a lot with money, right? But at the end of the day, it's a tool in the form of energy. And if you become so obsessed about it, it owns you, not you owning it. So yeah.
100%. All right. So since I've met you past few months, you've really brought liver, I guess, health to my space. And, we've talked about, we've seen people even that work at this show that are healthy young individuals that have liver disease. And my mind was fucking blown. Really. I just couldn't believe that that's possible. If fatty liver disease is a real pandemic, why isn't the media talking about it?
They're not talking about it enough, and they should be, and they're going to start doing it. So our main strategy is make the liver famous, right? The liver's the hero in this whole endeavor. And then as a company, we want people to become more conscious of the liver, get screening for the liver, love their liver, and then do dietary things, avoid things, take things like De-liver-ance to turn it around. I think it will get bigger and bigger, but it's about 20 to 25 years behind in funding. There's not a lot of attention paid in it. But if you speak to people in biotech or even academia, because we work with a lot of universities, liver health is the next big thing coming over the horizon. Right now, the flavor of the last decade has been gut health. Liver is going to be the next one, thank God. But they have to, because in the last 50 years, liver disease is up 400%. I mean, every other disease, I'll send you this slide. It's a WHO fact sheet. Most diseases are like this with population growth. And then you've got liver disease. It looks like some weird outlier statistically. And it's accelerating. It's not even slowing down. It's going faster and faster. So, in the UK, for instance, where we're based, we've socialized medicine, and the government, I think it's something like 60% of the budget is for healthcare. You know, Giving somebody a fibro scan and screening them early costs a couple $100. Putting them onto a good diet and a good plan costs hundreds. If somebody gets cirrhosis, it costs 2.6 million pounds per patient. So it's about $3 million. In the US, I would dare to say somebody that gets cirrhosis will probably cost an insurance company $5 million, $6 million. So, I think we almost need to appeal to their greed, that the smarter thing to do is to prevent people from getting liver disease rather than just trying to monetize it, because it's breaking the bank.
But if they use your product, then they save $5 million. I can't see why they'd be against it.
Yeah, well, it depends controlling and lobbying too. I was with fantastic talk with Del Bigtree and RFK, and we have a relationship with Maha, and this blew my mind. We always think of the oil and gas lobby in the United States to be this incredibly powerful lobby, which it is. I mean, we went to 2 wars basically over oil. But the big pharma spends 9 times on lobbying than the entire oil and gas industry. So they have so much influence over the politics, plus television. Right? You watch TV in the United States and now even UK, most of the commercials are drug commercials. So they now control the media as well, because the media at the end of the day is they're not about truth anymore, the news. It's about entertainment, and it's about selling advertising space. That's how they make their money. And drug companies hold the purse strings. So the media is not really going to talk about liver disease unless it's really profiteering to the drug company.
So let's talk about, again, we said, we have healthy people that work at this company on this show, and they had fatty liver disease. And again, I told you it was a real eye opener for me. Who needs to concern themselves about fatty liver? Give me like the perfect person who thinks they're in good health but isn't.
Well, I think everybody needs to check their liver. So that's first and foremost. Everybody should be checking it once a year. Getting a blood panel done on your liver is not enough information. It's a lagging indicator. And if you have fatty liver disease, we're seeing 80 to 90% of those with fatty liver disease fatty liver does not show up on a blood test. So everybody's running around, don't know they have it. But the first people that should be concerned about it are, liver health would be, so if you don't have your gallbladder, right, you're much higher risk for liver diseases and liver issues as well. Eating processed foods. 90% of people that are obese will have fatty liver disease. 60 to 70% of type 2 diabetics will have fatty liver disease. And South Asians specifically as well, everywhere from not just South Asia, but Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, they get fatty liver much faster, to the point to where they call it skinny fat. Usually if it's just because of weight gain, like a Caucasian or an African American or an African, they're usually about 30 BMI when, they probably got fatty liver. South Asians can be as low as 20, right? So thin, really good, but we call it skinny fat. So they're starting to store a lot of fat on their liver. We started to see it with certain Ozempic and GLP-1 patients as well that are developing fatty liver, right? They've lost a lot of weight. They may not be obese anymore, which is obviously obesity is a huge health concern. It'll kill you. But they're starting to develop fatty liver disease. And we believe that is because with GLP-1s, your body thinks you're starving. So it's storing glycans, which is basically little packets of fat and energy for you to use to survive. So South Asians definitely should be getting checked for fatty liver much more than other ethnicities.
Because, like I said, I'm almost 50. I see the doctor every year. I do a lot of holistic treatment, whatever. I've never once been asked to test my liver.
Yeah, hence, that's why 120 million Americans have fatty liver disease, right? So they need to be screening it. And so the technology that we do within our network and our group in the liver clinic, we do everything from a biopsy, which we try to avoid, MRI, blood test, ultrasound if I'm looking for a tumor, nutrition, questionnaires you do, but fibro scanning or shear wave technology I think is the best because it's super quick, it's relatively inexpensive compared to an MRI, it's very accurate and it's instant, and you scan the liver. It's so safe that you can have if you're pregnant or if you've got a pacemaker. We shoot a sound wave into your liver, vibrations, software, then we're measuring how soft and squishy your liver is, and we can tell, is it stiff, do you have any scarring, and how much liver fat do you have right then and there. So that technology has been around for 20 years, but it's sitting in a hepatologist's office or it's sitting in universities, and it's crazy. And when I first started doing it, they said, well, what are your patient pathways for your chronically ill patients? I said, I'm not targeting chronically ill patients. Like, what do you mean? I said, I'm scanning the normal people, the healthy people, or people that think they're healthy to prevent them from getting chronically ill. So I've taken that technology, and we have at the liver clinics, and brought that as a frontline direct to the consumer so that people can take control of their own health in this aspect, quick and easy, and they've got an immediate diagnostic.
So it seems affordable, quick,
it's super safe.
Safe, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, a year ago, I'd be watching this, and I'd say, this guy's smart, he knows what he's talking about, everything's cool, but I'm not a candidate. I don't need to worry about having a fatty liver. Convince me.
Well, everybody has a potential for fatty liver, and it might be a genetic thing. It could be a pharmaceutical thing that you're taking. You might have some epigenetic switch that makes you more susceptible to how you're metabolizing maybe types of sugars or fat. So you might be, I know thing about nutrition, and you do more today than we did a year ago. So certain things are creating that as well. Like I would have never guessed that somebody that lost a lot of weight that was obese could have fatty liver as well. So it's still good to check. At the end of the day, we don't want to live in fear. And stress causes you more damage than fatty liver. Stress is one of the most damaging things you can do. So you don't want to stress about it, but you want to be conscious of what you're doing, and you should have it checked. If you're really thin and really good health, maybe not once a year, but when you get older, especially men, so 2/3 of fatty liver patients are men. So men are much more likely to get it. It's kind of the opposite of Alzheimer's. 70% of Alzheimer's are women. So women are much more susceptible to Alzheimer's. Men get fatty liver much quicker as well. One of the fastest growing groups of fatty liver disease is actually teenage girls, which is really interesting. Young adolescent and late teen girls as well. And I think that has to do a lot with probably like diet soda. So people might be thinking, well, I drink diet soda. I don't really get a lot of sugar. I'm not going to get fatty liver. What we've seen, you're much more likely to get fatty liver on a diet soda that's with chemicals than you would be on something with sugar, because the liver knows what sugar is. The liver knows what fat is. The liver knows how to deal with that. What the liver does not know is all these chemicals and synthetic things and aspartame and all these fake compounds. The liver is like, when I said it was intelligent, it looks at that as a bigger threat. So it will say, you know what? I'll deal with sugar and fat. I'll deal with you later. I got to deal with this chemical that I don't understand and I don't know, and it could cause all kinds of damage. So, Diet Coke, I'm not saying you drink Diet Coke, but, it's always good to check as well.
Okay, so I have a 6-year-old. Should I be concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was with this top hepatologist, Professor Jalan, right? 400 papers, one of the top guys in the world. And we were in a restaurant, and there was a little kid cruise by with a juice packet. And he said, and I had a beer on the table. He said, would you give that kid a beer? I said, no, of course not. He said, why? I said, well, it causes a lot of liver damage. I said, no. See that juice packet over there? The molecule for that high fructose corn syrup or sugar is the exact identical molecule that's in the alcohol. They'll do equal damage. So I think for a child specifically, and without going down the rabbit hole of vaccinations and how many vaccines you're trying to give to kids, first of all, you got to protect your kid there. And I have a 5-year-old. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old's almost 5.
Yeah.
And we're very concerned about what they're given. So when they're at school or they're at camp or something like that, I don't want them giving my kid fluoridated tap water. And we're in Scottsdale, where a lot of chlorine in the water. I don't want them giving that. So yeah, I'm concerned about him. I don't want them giving him juice packets or soda or caffeine or, God knows what's in like the ingredients of like a fast food pizza, right? So yeah, they're much more susceptible. I would be more concerned about them, and I am as a father. My wife is a nutritionist, is because we're not with them all the time. We have to protect them from other people that are just ignorant to nutrition or ignorant to what's in the food supply as well. So yeah,
So you're telling me that giving kids juice is like child abuse?
I would say it's child abuse. I would say there's negligence. I would, for sure. I think fresh juice with pulp, fantastic, right? Some packaged chemical food dyed high fructose corn syrup shit in a box. Yeah, I think that's negligent for sure. And abuse is kind of a broad word, but
I'll call it abuse then.
yeah.
I think it's fucked up.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to protect them, right? So yeah,
I know, and like I said, when I met you the first time, these numbers started rallying my head because, you started breaking down children, teens, adolescents, people in their 40s. And, there's a subset of people that should just be naturally healthy no matter what you do. And that should be like under 25. And now there's nobody. People are, I guess, even coming out of the womb diseased. So I really just want to put shine a spotlight on this stuff because again, I'm kind of, living through me in a sense that I really had no idea this was that big of an issue. And even if I heard this interview, I'd still be like, it doesn't fucking apply to me, but it does. And I can't bring that point home more than keep stressing these questions to you because I think it's important that people understand that standard of care should be a liver scan every year at any age.
yeah. I want to bring up a really good point and why it does apply to everybody, right? It is very, very rare that you will meet somebody that doesn't have a direct family member that's either had type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, or metabolic syndrome, right? Almost everybody has, and that's all starts with a fatty liver. The foundation of type 2 diabetes, fatty liver. The foundation of metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes. And the foundation and the two biggest root causes of cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. So more people are actually going to die of heart attacks because of fatty liver than are going to die of liver disease because of fatty liver. That's important. So if anybody has a family member and has a liver, it applies to them.
Yeah, it's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Can you actually reverse liver damage? Or is this just another wellness fantasy of marketing?
No, you could definitely, the liver's ability to regenerate is unmatched. I always say if we could harness the liver's ability to regenerate and put that in other organs, imagine if your heart was constantly regenerating, you wouldn't have heart disease, right? Or joints or bones. Like the fountain of youth, the fountain of life is probably somewhere in to do with stem cells and to do with how the liver's ability to regenerate. So yeah, liver definitely can heal itself.
You talk about cellular detox. What's the difference between that and like bullshit celery juice trends?
Well, celery juice trends, obviously, or juicing as well, is you're getting a lot of micronutrients and you're doing things like, which I guess affects you on a cellular level with nutrients to do it, but that's like a one type of shoe, you know what I mean? Whereas working on a cellular level, how we work is we're trying to do multiple things, just like the body is multiple things. And like a symphony, right? Great music, or great jazz music or great blues music, right? It's a combination of everybody together playing and these sounds and this vibration and this leadership and this tempo. That's what creates magic. And the body does that as well. So, and how we formulate is we're trying to increase oxidation of the blood, more blood flow, what's happening with the white blood cells, what's happening with the red blood cells, what's happening with the brain, neurotransmission, what's happening with the spleen, what's happening in the stomach. You've got to work holistically, and we formulate holistically as well to do. So, doing a celery juice cleanse is, it's great, but it's not working on a cellular level to regenerate and to give the body's most important organ everything it needs to fight, 100 to 150,000 chemicals that enter the human food system. Yeah.
Why are most longevity experts completely skipping over the liver in their protocols? We know where the media and Western medicine is, but why about that?
That's a very good question. I think there's not, because there's not a lot of understanding of the liver. It's something that they haven't really focused on as much. And there's not a lot of treatments. I mean, there's some liver supplements that are around and have been around. Um, if you talk to, whether it's Asprey or Timu or some of these other great biohackers, they know how important the liver is. They've said it, but they kind of they just say it and move on. And it hasn't become a center of attention or focus. I think we're part of this movement of trying to listen. Everybody needs to, you know, even our competitors, but let's get people's liver healthy.
Yeah, and I think there's you and, like, maybe one other person. I mean, if you say microbiome, it, like, it's not echoing in a room. You say liver and just
Yeah.
right? So, that's why you look at this stuff. Are these just trends and bullshit, or has the tech caught up with liver health and
We're on the cusp, right? It's on its way up from public awareness and solutions. I'd like to think, and our goal is to, instead of it keep accelerating, is to reduce it. How amazing would that be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that it's not the 40% of the U.S. population. Right now, the prediction, NIH and FDA prediction, is 50% of the U.S. population have fatty liver disease. So, if there's anything I could do about it, that's not going to happen. And being on the show and more people talking about it, we need to turn that down. We have to.
I think it's huge. So I know a lot of people who take your product. I know people that have fatty livers from drinking. I know people who have fatty livers from drinking, taking your product and still reversing their fatty liver while continuing to drink.
Yeah.
Right? Not that I recommend that, but like that's pretty incredible. What's your craziest client transformation story?
I think the most touching one was, I got a call from a doctor in Cologne, Germany, and they had a 11-year-old little boy in the liver transplant list, and he was waiting to get a transplant. And she came in. She told me after the fact. She said, "I wanted you to know we've had him on a really good nutritionist diet. I've had him on De-liver-ance. We've been hitting with positive energy and dancing and laughing, and we've now aborted the liver transplant, and he's no longer needs to get a liver transplant." That was 2 years ago. That was probably the most touching and compelling that we had. Crazy stories. We've had people that, because you do get people that are really naughty, right? So they're taking 1 or 2 De-liver-ance a day for fatty liver disease, and then they're still drinking and not living well. But we've had people that just floor to the, pedal to the metal, just not a great lifestyle, not a lot of sleep, a lot of stress. They smoke, they drink, but we're still having a net positive effect, and their liver fat's still coming down. We've got one that's a huge movie producer in France, one of the biggest. And he's been on De-liver-ance for about 6 years, and he is a bon vivant. He eats well, he drinks well, have an occasional cigarette, very stressful, flying all over the place. And we've still managed to keep his cholesterol in balance for the last 5 years and keep his liver fat low. He takes the product religiously, and I'd like to think that he's healthier than he was, but he doesn't listen as much. If you listen to your nutritionist and you start being healthy, it's just so much faster to get you into optimal health, because it's like you're fighting against resistance from people who are still drinking and doing that too. So it's up to the patient and the customer to really do that.
I think it's interesting because, most products are a mindset and the product. At least with your product, it kind of works for both worlds. The people who want to take the pill and feel better, and the people who actually want to do the work and feel better.
Yeah.
Are there any liver supplements that actually work, or just all of them expensive snake oil?
No, there's definitely some that work as well. In Western medicine, a very nice basic one is milk thistle. I think milk thistle by itself is much better than not taking anything. That's been used tried and true for, thousands of years as well. Dandelion's good. We took 18 years to formulate De-liver-ance, and it's light years ahead of almost any other supplement there is. And because we're not just trying to target just the liver, we're working on all these other organs. Plus, we put in a mental clarity booster as well, so the nootropic, so you can feel it. Which I do that also because if you have fatty liver disease, one of the first symptoms is brain fog. So I was trying to give people more cognitive function that's disabled because they got fatty liver. But what it's turned out to happen too is some people, it's hard to keep somebody on the product all the time. But because you get the mental clarity right away with De-liver-ance, it keeps people more compliant with taking it. So In the front, they're taking it maybe more selfishly because it's making me think faster, while under the hood, we're rebuilding the liver, getting rid of liver fat, and giving it everything it needs.
I think that's an important piece of that because so many people take supplements and they don't feel it or whatever, and then they drop off, even though they're actually helping them. So is your morning coffee quietly destroying your liver's ability to detox?
No, the opposite. Coffee is actually very healthy for your liver. There was a big NIH study, a couple of studies have done on it, but there's 2 NIH papers on it, that if you drink 2 cups of coffee a day, you have 44% less chance of getting liver disease. If you drink 4 cups a day, it's 66%. So coffee is a very powerful antioxidant, right? So that's good. It also drives a lot of blood into the liver, which is very good for liver function. The more blood pumping through the liver, the better it is as well. So coffee is actually pro-liver. It's very good for the liver, and definitely endorse it. That being said, if you put white sugar in it, right, now you're going into problems. Fake creamers, right? Artificial colors, preservatives, like some of the shit at Starbucks. That's like looks like a diabetes drink.
Yeah.
Right. So what you put into it can totally take something that's good for you and dramatically alter it.
Excellent. Are seed oils doing more liver damage than alcohol?
Ooh, that's a good question. Is it? I don't think there's been a study comparable to that. I would imagine alcohol is doing more damage just by nature. But it depends. I mean, if you have a beer a day, 5 days a week versus seed oil 3 times a day all week, then yeah, seed oil is worse. Seed oil, seed oil can gunk up the system. It can cause inflammation. It can cause congestion within the liver. There's all kinds of long-term ramifications. So it could be equal. It could be worse. It depends on the patient or the person, really, because seed oil, funny, I was talking to Dave Asprey about it, and he hit me with a quiz. He says, if you had a choice between fries cooked in really basically dirty French fries, seed oil, versus one cigarette, what would cause more damage? I was like, oh, the fries would for sure, because your body will heal from the one cigarette, right? But if you're just having this, huge punnet of French fries in dirty oil, yeah, that would obviously neither is the answer, but
Yeah. What's one supplement you'd ban today if you had the power in regards to liver?
that one supplement, like a liver.
Liver supplement, yeah. Is there anything out there that's just bullshit or it's causing damage?
There is a lot of evidence that too much turmeric can actually cause some liver damage as well. In certain countries they're talking even banning turmeric because too much of it's in a powdered form. I don't know of anyone specifically. I think too much turmeric probably is not a good idea. I think too much of anything is generally not a good idea. But I can't think of anyone in particular that I would ban. I mean, there's definitely chemicals and dyes and stuff that's put in food that should be banned, but not an actual supplement by name.
NAD plus, is it something that you're wasting your money on if your liver is sluggish and overloaded?
Well, if your liver is overloaded and sluggish, you're not going to get the right absorption or the optimization of anything you're doing or the supplements you're doing. Just like if your gut biome's out of whack and you're not getting absorption, you could be wasting a lot of money on supplements as well. I know there's more stuff coming out with NAD. I mean, NAD pills and sprays are just not very effective. Sublingual is better. The best way really to get NAD is injection. I don't know enough about the little shots. I do it intravenously. I think in an IV, it's incredibly effective. There's a lot of health benefits to it. There's that great Harvard study that was done on it. So I'm a big a fan of NAD. I like the precursors as well. So yeah, I think NAD is a good thing.
Even if your liver is compromised?
Which is, it's not going to work as good. I don't think it would cause damage. It should be just by its very nature in helping with the telomeres and with the little basically micro robots that do all the DNA repair. So that would be good as well. You might not be getting as much benefit from it if your liver's out of whack. There's very much so. It's more important that needs to be discussed is sort of like menopause, right? Or HRT, hormone replacement therapy. That you really need to get your liver in good shape before you start any kind of hormone therapy, because you could be causing actually more damage if your liver's not functioning really well. So your liver is a mastermind in controlling and kind of managing equilibrium and sensation within hormones within the body. So having a really healthy liver before you go into HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is really important. And if you do get into hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical is the best. It's plant-based, and it can more bespoke it to the patient. interesting that I've just read a study today which blew my mind. So we always known that one of the biggest groups of binge drinkers are actually retired people, and menopausal and postmenopausal women
So it's college
are,
students.
are huge. Yeah, it's actually it's postmenopausal or menopausal women are some of the biggest binge drinkers. And this study that I read the other day, because we always knew, and I'd read these studies, that younger women, pre-menopause that drink 3 times a week or more socially are about 33% higher risk of breast cancer, right? That was shown in a couple studies. And that's because when you're drinking, your liver's not functioning as well. Therefore, it's not getting rid of the old hormones as well. Those are leading up and causing breast cancer higher percentage. And the study I read the other day, I'll send it to you, it's 5,000 women were in it. I think it was over a 20-year period. Women that are on HRT, so hormone replacement therapy, post-menopause, that drink 2 times a day have a 300% higher chance of breast cancer. And if they drink 3 to 4 cocktails a day or drinks a day, 500% increase in breast cancer rate.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it blew my mind. So I'm now making it a big point to any of our clients, patients, friends, or if you've got a loved one or you are undergoing hormone replacement therapy, you cannot drink. I mean, 500, you mentioned the 500% risk factor.
Yeah.
And nobody knows that. And that group is also some of the biggest binge drinkers. That needs to be told. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just like a public safety issue.
For sure. For sure. I mean, the HRT people should know this so
Yeah.
that they, pass that information. I know you answered this question, but I kind of want to get a more direct answer. Are blood tests lying about our real liver health?
No, they're not lying. They're only telling a small glimpse of the whole picture. Plus, it's a lagging indicator, right? It's not a live one. And the standard liver panel is about eight things they're looking at. We're looking at bilirubin, we're looking at albumin, we're looking at ALT, AST, gammas. Those are the 3 that really are important. And those are basically signals or enzymes that are showing that the liver's inflamed, the liver could be under stress, the liver could be damaged, or it could be an infection. But it's not showing if you have fatty liver. So it doesn't do that. And that's why most people don't know they have it. The old school way for checking the liver was, when you lay down and get a physical, the doctor starts pushing around right here. What they're doing is they're feeling your liver to see if it's stiff, if they can pick up any fibrosis or it's inflamed. It's basically that, and a blood test is what they were using to say how healthy your liver is. Right? It's not enough.
Are doctors causing liver damage by overprescribing pharmaceuticals?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Would you trust your liver to a traditional gastroenterologist?
I think GI guys are probably better. I mean, endocrinologists know a lot about the liver. Hepatologists, but hepatologists are more like serious liver disease. I mean, the first person to give you good advice on liver health is going to be a dietitian or nutritionist, because what we're eating is the most important. That's your front line. You start there. If you're having a discussion with a hepatologist, something's really bad. If you're having a discussion with your GI doctor, you've done something to where you've got to that point. But yeah, pharmaceutical causes a lot of liver damage. I mean, one great example is paracetamol or acetaminophen or Tylenol. That actually dissolves liver tissue. So, I was with the poisons control group in Colorado. You know that number that if you get poisoned, you call poison control? They said during the holiday season, their largest cases tend to be people that have overdosed on Tylenol, or teenagers tried to take too much and maybe like a attempted suicide or anything. But Tylenol, and we have to do liver transplants on sometimes to people that have taken way too much Tylenol, because Tylenol dissolves liver tissue. So if you ever get a headache, the first thing you should do is drink more water, right? A lot of time a headache could be your body trying to tell you, listen, I'm 80% water and I'm dehydrated. We're 60 to 70% water, our brain's at 80. But if I've got a headache and I can't knock it out with a lot of other modalities, I'll take an Advil or an ibuprofen, because that will help, but it's not as damaging to your liver. But if you've got a severe headache and you're suffering, of course take a Tylenol, but don't drink any alcohol with it. Make sure and drink a lot of water around it, and take the minimal dose to do it. So your body can recover from the damage that a Tylenol does. But if you compound that with other things, Tylenol, let's say, does damage of 2, alcohol does damage of 2. You take both at the same time, it's not 2 plus 2 is 4. It's more like 2 times 2 plus 8 is like the score of like 10. It magnifies and compounds the damage when you do that together, just like HRT and alcohol.
I think, I'm always telling people about Tylenol, so I'm glad you brought that home, that even in general, it's dangerous. Does liver toxicity show up in someone's face or energy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of skin conditions, internal, right? It's something happening internally and it manifests its way to liver spots, or if you've got a really healthy liver, like people on De-liver-ance, your skin and your hair is better. You've got more elasticity, more blood flow, more antioxidants, less free radicals. But if your liver's out of whack, it can start to manifest on the skin, premature aging, less collagen, less elasticity as well. So it definitely shows on. That's why also if your liver's out of whack, first thing that goes yellow is your eyes, then your skin starts to turn yellow. I mean, that's what jaundice is. And that's because of something dramatically wrong within the liver.
So how many biohackers do you think would fail a liver panel right now?
You mean a liver scan or a liver blood test?
Let's say skin.
Um, well, I can tell you that the national average is 38%. When we do some of these biohacking shows where you've got the people that are incredibly fluent and knowledgeable, especially like the biohacking conference, right? The average person that's in that show is very fluent in healthcare and in biohacking and knowledge. And we're still 25 to 30% of them have fatty liver disease. I know that because we scan hundreds and hundreds of people at these events.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I asked you a specific question like that, because I know what you're doing with it. How much of chronic illness today is really just liver dysfunction in disguise?
Well, liver dysfunction, it causes a lot of chronic illness as well. I know if you could have liver dysfunction, and if let's say, here's an example, if you have liver dysfunction and you might be showing, you might be high in estrogen or low in estrogen or high in progesterone, so your woman's hormones are out of whack, they're getting symptoms of menopause, and a doctor might misdiagnose them as having menopause when they don't, just because of that. So that's a dysfunction, and then probably a miscalibration or a miscall of what they're having. But the silver lining in all this is type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and fatty liver are all reversible. So that's, I think, cardiovascular disease, right? Nobody was, the head of cardiology at Mayo, what I was meeting with in London, thought there was no correlation between fatty liver and cardiovascular disease. And then we took them through how it is, and they've now, okay, we should be looking at their fatty liver. Yeah.
Final question. If someone only had $100 a month to invest in their liver health, give us a protocol for that.
You had $100 to invest. Well, first and foremost, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What do you want? How are you being conscious? Are you cutting out all these things? Because that's usually cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So let's see how we can save in other areas to do it. And if I had $100 a month, it was me, I would go on like a deliverance every other day. Yeah. Or do like a week on, week off. That'd probably be a good way to do it. But I would start with because you're going to get better liver health if you're not attacking it all the time or letting it get the crap beat out of it.
Yeah.
So start with damage control, then rebuild.